And for more on this, we're now joined by Sarah Motha, the Director of Anti-Corruption Trust Southern Africa, and she joins us via our video link. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us this evening here on SABC News. Of course, experts in this field in the SADC region are meeting in Cape Town over this week. So far, we know that it has taken place. It started yesterday. And maybe if you can just give us an insight in terms of what has come out of this conference so far over the past 2 days.
Thank you so much, and the viewers at home. Remember, last year South Africa was grey-listed as a country that does not qualify and meet the guidelines of the Financial Action Task Force that was set up in 1989 as a mechanism to evaluate states that are parties to the Financial Action Task Force to be evaluated to ensure that they set up mechanisms that are able to deal with money laundering. And South Africa last year was grey-listed, so it's important that we are hosting the SADC region to interact with the guidelines and some of the findings of that task force as to what makes South Africa not to be in compliant with the Financial Action Task Force recommendations that were established and set up in 1989 to 1990. There are about 40 of these recommendations, and South Africa is not, at the moment meeting the full, cycle of those recommendations.
How important is it to this country and to this conference taking place, to find the necessary solutions when it comes to issues around money laundering, and of course, which has also dented the country's image?
Certainly, we know from reports that money laundering in all forms, like recently virtual assets are being laundered, which is a new development in the age of, the fourth industrial revolution. Cyber crimes are in the increase, and that's what the review report of the South African state on, laundering finances found. They also found that there is, laundering in, items related to crimes related to minerals and environmental crimes. So it's important that South Africa leads this narrative as they are a member to the task force.
And perhaps let's talk about money laundering itself and, it being a problem. And maybe if you can just tell us, how prevalent money laundering problems are in the SADC region. And, in what way and shape do they, take place? Because, they all come in different forms, when you really properly investigate what money laundering is.
Yes, I just listed, it's an all-encompassing, concept that involves beyond, dollars and rands to, assets virtually that are transacted between individuals and states, to minerals, items such as, trafficking in ivory, which relates to, environmental crimes, trafficking or overfishing as an example of those crimes that quite often we don't think of. Of course, human trafficking, especially of the vulnerable, such as migrants, is the nature of crimes that we're talking about, and obviously drugs, which were in fact, the founding reasons of this task force in 1989, and the description of money laundering has advanced following that time to include these crimes that I'm mentioning.
Yeah, and you're mentioning all of these crimes, and we can't help but wonder, and we bring the Phala Phala farm saga to the fore once again, and we know that we have some parliamentarians, who have accused the president of money laundering, and they want these money laundering charges also instituted against him. You know, when we have, even the number one citizen being accused by his colleagues, I mean, what picture does that paint for South Africa if we are talking about money laundering even in the highest office in the land?
What's important is that South Africa is part of the 38 states across the globe that are a member or that have committed to live by the rules and the recommendations of the Financial Action Task Force. And therefore, remember, so part of the commitment of those countries is to say that we will implement mechanisms, including laws and institutions that are able to criminalize such acts and also include the judiciary processes. We in South Africa have a constitution, fortunately, that holds everyone, irrespective of their status, accountable, and no one is above the rule of law. So that's why South Africa was grey-listed by our own task force as not following the recommendations, and therefore those that are responsible should be held accountable. Through our work, we found that impunity for perpetrators is widespread in South Africa. So holding even senior officials into account to face the justice system is one way in which the country can be seen to be serious to maintain the rule and keep the rule of law working.
And Sarah, you keep on speaking about South Africa being grey-listed, and one would ask, in order for South Africa to be ultimately removed from being grey-listed, what needs to happen? What needs to change in this country?
There were 5 areas identified by the report of the task force, and we need to then align our action or actions in relation to the recommendations. For example, put more stronger legal mechanisms to deal with virtual assets, same as the crimes related to minerals and environmental crimes that were mentioned as 5 of the key activities that led to South Africa being grey-listed in 2023.
And as we wrap up this conversation, Sarah, what else can we expect over the next 3 days of this conference?
We have the Minister of Justice, Honorable Lamula, in the House, and we hope that there will be a stronger commitment from the country to take action against, those that are, bypassing the rule of law and then be brought into books of justice, and also recommendations around South Africa taking, steps to formulate legal mechanisms to deal with and policies to deal with the money laundering in the country.
Sarah, thank you so much for your time this evening here in SABC News. That is Sarah Motha. She is the director of the Anti-Corruption Trust Southern Africa, taking part as well in that conference taking place in Cape Town. Of course, this is a conference of experts in the SADC region dealing with money laundering.